By late 1982, Duran's stock had tumbled even further than after the Nomads fight. He had lost the decision in a challenge for the WBC junior middleweight title to Wilfred Benitez, who had by then anglicized his given name by dropping the O from Wilfredo to Wilfred. And then he was outpointed by Kirken Lang, a Jamaican-born welterweight who resided in Hackney in East London, United Kingdom. Don King stormed into Duran's dressing room after the Kirken Lang defeat, vowing never to promote Duran again. At 31, Duran appeared to be on the scrap heap. His entourage was falling apart. Freddie Brown, his trainer, had quit in a dispute over money after the Nomads fight. After washing his hands of Duran in New Orleans, Ray Arcel had relented and returned to work Duran's corner against Benitez. But he was so disappointed in the result that he subsequently sent Duran a heartfelt letter recommending that they both retire. Carlos Saletta no longer even phoned and appeared to have lost all interest. Only Plomo, Nestor Quinones, Duran's boyhood trainer, remained from the old days. Luis Spada, an Argentinian matchmaker who operated in Panama, told Duran if he had ever needed an extra spit bucket carrier, he would be his man. As Duran contemplated his future, he telephoned Spada and said, "I don't need you to carry the bucket. I want you to be my manager." Spada contacted Aletta, who confirmed that he was through with Duran and wished him the best of luck. Duran turned up at the offices of Top Rank in autumn 1982. Teddy Brenner, the deposed president of Madison Square Garden Boxing, resurfaced as Bob Arum's matchmaker, and he convinced Arum to give Duran a shot. He said Duran hadn't absorbed a lot of physical punishment in the ring, and if he could rekindle that fire, he would be a profitable acquisition for Top Rank. Arum didn't have much faith in the Hispanic boxing market, but after signing Duran and being at the helm of his Resurgence, this led to alliances with the likes of Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Oscar De La Hoya, Miguel Cotto, Eric Morales, Jose Luis Castillo, Humberto Soto, Jorge Arce, Antonio Margarito, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Duran outpointed Britain's Jimmy Batten in his first fight under Top Rank. This was on the Aaron Pryor Alexis Arguello card in Miami. It didn't do much to enhance his reputation or his image. The main event had ended chaotically, and the Batten fight was a walkout bout. There was catcalls and boos from what remained of the crowd. In January 1983, on the eve of the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, Duran scored a stunning knockout of Pepino Cuevas at the LA Sports Arena, dropping Cuevas twice, stopping him in the fourth. The pro-Mexican crowd were backing Cuevas to defeat Duran, and they were disappointed in his performance. Eddie the Animal Lopez, a Chicano heavyweight from East Los Angeles, stood on the apron of the ring, cursing at Cuevas. As the fighters and their entourages milled about in the ring, a network cameraman on hand to capture Duran's post-fight interview was struck squarely on the back by an object heaved from the stands and immediately felt warm moisture spreading across his back. He feared at first that it might be his own blood, but when he looked down to the canvas, he realized that he had been hit by an East LA hand grenade, a makeshift water balloon consisting of a condom filled with freshly produced urine. It had presumably been intended for Pepino Cuevas. Arum told Duran that if he could beat Cuevas, he'd arrange a shot against WBA junior middleweight champion Davey Moore. When Tony Ayala, an unbeaten Texas junior middleweight, was arrested on rape charges, his mandatory shot at Moore was all but gone. He spent 17 years in prison, clearing the way for Duran. The fight was initially supposed to be in South Africa, in combination with a Ray Mancini-Kenny Bogner lightweight title match. Frank Sinatra had agreed to perform because he was a big fan of Mancini. A couple of weeks before they were due to fly out, Mancini broke his collarbone. When that fight was cancelled, Sinatra cancelled too. They had to find a new venue for Moore versus Duran, and New York seemed a natural fit. They rented the Madison Square Garden, where Davey Moore had won multiple Golden Gloves titles, and Duran was very popular amongst the Hispanic crowds in New York. Leonard made one defense of the undisputed welterweight title that he acquired after defeating Tommy Hearns. He TKO'd Bruce Finch in Reno, February 1982. He was to have met Roger Stafford in Buffalo that May, but a routine pre-fight physical revealed a detached retina in his left eye. The fight was cancelled. Leonard returned to Maryland, where he underwent surgery at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. Years back, a detached retina would be a career ender, but laser techniques were becoming available, and besides, this was Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard booked the Baltimore Civic Center for the 9th of November, a week after his return from Italy, where he had gone as part of the HBO broadcast team for Hagler's 30th of October rematch against Oblimeus. Oblimeus 2 had initially been scheduled for the 15th of July, but had been postponed after Hagler incurred a rib injury while sparring in Provincetown. Ray had chosen the site of his pro debut for what he promised would be a historic announcement. Over 10,000 tickets had been sold to the public. The proceeds would be donated to the boys' clubs of Baltimore, and another 2,000 special guests had received invitations. Among those on the guest list were Guarino and Pasquale Petronelli, and a certain Mr. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. When they met in their rematch in San Remo, Hagler finished Oblimeus off in 5, belting him with a right hand that left the Venezuelan sprawled on the deck. Oblimeus was still struggling to regain his footing when referee Ernesto Magana counted him out. As soon as I hit him, Hagler recalled, I knew he wouldn't get up. Well, he would have been a fool if he tried to. Amongst the first in the ring to congratulate Hagler was Leonard, who interviewed him for HBO. Once they had disposed of their recap of the fight itself, Marvin turned to Ray with a grin and teased him. Let's go for the big one, Hagler told him. The people want to see you, Lenny. They don't want you to retire. I'll think about it, Leonard replied with a laugh. After he made his way out of the Teatro Ariston in San Remo that night, Pat Petronelli ran into Leonard. Pat, he whispered, I'm going to deny it, but there'll be a fight. I did tell him that, Leonard recalled with a smile. I guess I said it like a politician. I said there would be a fight. I just didn't say when. Not even Leonard's closest associates were sure. I don't know, said Ollie Dunlap. And to tell you the truth, I really don't think Ray has made up his mind either. The Hagler camp already had dollar signs dancing in their heads. Bob Arum, having discovered what he described as a motherlode in the South African homeland, supposed that he could sell Hagler-Leonard in Botswana for $1 trillion. Whether either Hagler or Leonard could have been persuaded to perform in a venue that represented a veritable monument to apartheid is a question that had never been answered. Frankly, I doubt it. Hagler's promoter was even contemplating how to get around the nettlesome problem posed by Tony Simpson's impending mandatory challenge, which according to WBC rules needed to be formalized within a week or two. If Jose Suleiman tried to strip Hagler to prevent a Hagler-Leonard match, it would be a joke, said Arum. It would be the end of the WBC, and no one would take them seriously. It seemed plain enough that Simpson himself was uneager to be an impediment to the proposed mega fight. Hagler could turn that down, said the Englishman, as long as they got me a good payday on the undercard, I'd wait in line. Seemingly, the only man whose opinion was not solicited in San Remo that very night was Oblimeus. At 3 a.m., after we had filed our stories, Jim Fenton of the Brockton Enterprise and I walked out of the arena and into the deserted town square to come upon the beaten Venezuelan. He was a forlorn figure. His face was puffy, and still clad in his fight robe, trunks, and socks. He wore shower clogs on his feet. His driver had apparently abandoned him, leaving the car lot and its former distinguished passenger stranded. He quietly found a seat on the stoop before a deserted storefront. His wife eventually approached and tenderly stroked his head. Oblimeus began to sob. A few miles away at the Hotel Mediterranee, Hagler's victory party was in full swing. They waited until we got back, and then Aram directed the piano player to strike up the chords to God Bless America. The boxing press, much of it en route to Miami for the Pryor Arguello fight the following weekend, flocked to Baltimore in anticipation of Leonard's announcement. Howard Cosell was brought in to serve as master of ceremonies. Angelo Dundee was also summoned, as were Muhammad Ali, and of course Hagler and the Petronellis. Every network in the country sent a film crew, and the event was promoted like a boxing match. Ringside guests ranged from boxing luminaries to Wayne Newton, Aureoles star Brooks Robinson, and Donald P. Hutchinson, one of Spyro Agnew's successors as Baltimore County Executive. Emanuel Stewart was on hand, as were the two reigning light heavyweight champions, Matthew Saad Muhammad and Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. "Whatever you decide, I'm behind you," Matthew told Leonard. Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, he echoed the sentiments of my brother, Matthew Saad Muhammad, in counseling Leonard. The following morning's Baltimore Sun reported that Matthew Saad Muhammad and his brother Eddie had supported Leonard's decision. Dick Young of the New York Post boycotted the proceedings, which he described as a Barnum and Bailey sideshow. If Leonard says anything other than he's through fighting, then the next test he should take is a psychiatric one. If he fights again, he is insane, and I just can't bring myself to believe that he will fight again. The suspense was prolonged by the reading of the congratulatory telegrams from Donna Summer, Richard Pryor, and Gerald Ford. When it came time for his address, Leonard assured the crowd that his eye had fully healed. He thanked Dr. Ron Michels, the John Hopkins surgeon who had allowed him to see again. He thanked his parents and his wife and his son, his trainer and his lawyer. He then described the fight against Hagler as the matchup each man had wanted for his entire career, one that would not only make each one of them rich beyond his wildest dreams, but also establish once and for all the matter of supremacy in the sport of boxing. The smile on Hagler's face seemed to broaden with each sentence, particularly when Leonard pointed his way and said, "He's the only man who could make it possible." Then Ray dropped the bombshell. "Unfortunately, it's not going to happen." Leonard went on to explain that after consultation with his family, friends, and business associates, he had decided to retire. Hagler was crestfallen. The Petronellis furious. "I'm surprised," said Pat. "I'm shocked," said Goody. "I'm disappointed," said Marvin. Leonard brought us here by special invitation, and then he kept calling to make sure we'd get there. We were sure it was to announce he was going to fight Marvin. Why else would he have wanted us to be there? Reasoned Goody Petronelli. Instead, they had flown to Baltimore to be used as stage props in another Sugar Ray Leonard moment. On his way out of the arena, Hagler's attorney, Steve Wainwright, turned to me and said, "Nothing," said the barrister, "is forever." Plans were almost immediately undertaken to revive the Hagler-Simpson mandatory, which took place in Worcester the following February. The outgunned Englishman was stopped in 6. Now, 6 months after having been snubbed in Baltimore, Hagler found himself relishing the chance to share the ring with Leonard, even if it would only be a puerile television skit with an 80-year-old comedian as the referee. They're referring to a boxing skit that Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler did with Bob Hope on his televised 80th birthday special at the Kennedy Center in Washington.